Hey everyone, Dan at Bushcraft. Well, guys, out of about 130 videos that I've made now, I realized today as I was out here doing my own bushcraft tasks that I have never done a video on just a knot. I have featured knots in various videos, especially doing shelter setups and some of the projects I've made, but I've never just broken it down and worked through just a knot. And I have to go back and tell you that when I very first started learning bushcraft, some things I took to right away, shelter building and fire and stuff. Those seemed to come real natural for me, but I fought with knots. I would sit there and do these knots over and over and get my fingers tangled up and the knot would fall out, and I just really struggled with knots. It was hard for me, and I had to practice a lot. I would have to sit in my living room while relaxing with a piece of cordage and do it over and over several times a day for several days to get my head and my finger motion, my hand motion to connect. For some reason, for me, there was just a disconnect. It was hard. And when I learn a new knot, it's still a struggle. If you come and teach me a brand new knot right now, I'm going to have to take many times throughout the day to sit down and do it over and over and over for many days. It's a struggle for me. But anyway, um, knots are an important part of bushcraft. And so I thought, you know what? Let's start doing an occasional knot video. So one of the most useful knots that I use out here, building tripods, lashing poles together, maybe I'm making a raised bed or a platform or something, a table, is the clove hitch. I will often start those projects with a clove hitch and sometimes finish with a clove hitch. So we're going to be using some bright orange cordage so that it shows up really good in the camera. Working on the tailgate of my truck so you guys can get a really good view. And we're going to make a clove hitch. And hopefully this, if you're already a master of the clove hitch, thumbs up. It took me a little while, but if you're not, or you just want to brush up on your skills, we're going to do a clove hitch. So let me readjust the camera, get you guys right up over the top of where I'll be working. Okay, two simple ways to do a clove hitch. The easiest, now remember you guys are backwards to me, so you'll have to turn this around. I might try it to see if I can and still get you in the camera. But if you do have the cordage facing you, so if I came this way, then we would be doing it the same directions. But I'm going to show you from the front side here. I'm going to make a loop. Okay. Just going to go across to the outside in front of me and make a loop. And then I'm going to make a second one identical to that one. And then I'm going to put the second loop in front of the first loop. Okay. Slip those over the end of this piece of wood, pull them tight, and I have a clove hitch right there, ready to go. So I can start weaving other poles together to make a tripod, or lashing this around a tree if I am, maybe building something. That is a clove hitch. Now, I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to try to turn the same direction as you guys, so we're doing it the same way. See if I can get around here without collapsing the camera. Okay, so we're facing the same way this time. I'm going to make a loop right there in front. Some might say a bite. I'm calling it a loop. I will let the language police correct me. So I make a loop here. I make another one behind it that is identical to it. They're both identical. But then I'm going to take the second one and I'm going to pass it in front of the first one. I'm pulling them open with my fingers. I'm going to slide them over the end of this piece of wood that I'm going to work from. It might be a tree limb or something else. I'm going to pull it tight. And you turn that over. That is a clove hitch. Now, the simplest way to remember the clove hitch for me, and maybe it'll help you out, is to think of an X and a tuck. An X and a tuck. And I'll show you. So we're going to do it now. That's the simple way to make the double loops and slide it over, but you can't always do that. So I'm going to undo this for you, and I want you to watch here. So this part, the second part, is the tuck. So I'm removing the tuck. Now I have an X. See that? I have an X. And I am removing my X. Okay? So take my cordage. This is the piece of wood that I want to start working with. And so I need a clove hitch. So I'm just going to loop it over the top. This is the working end. And I sling it right over the top. Now the first thing is an X. I have to make an X. So there. I cross that over the top and I have an X. Now remember what I said, an X and a tuck? So I need my X. I'm going to come around underneath and I got to tuck it. So I've got an X and a tuck. Just tuck that right underneath. Pull it tight. And my clove hitch, and I'm pulling hard. An X and a tuck. One more time on that one, guys. So your working end, the end that you're working with, that's why it's called the working end of the cordage, goes over the top of the piece of wood and around. We need an X. There's my X. And we need a tuck. So we got to come around one more time, and we got to tuck the end. And there's my clove hitch. Now what I like to do, a little tip for you guys, especially if I'm building a tripod. If I'm going to build a tripod right now to cook over, I'm going to need some cordage to hang a pot hook from. So in that case, I will give myself a lot of extra length on my working end. Okay, I'll make my X. And you can hold that down with your thumb on your other hand if if it's starting to slip on you at all. Around. And the tuck. And there's my clove hitch. Now, let's say I use all this cordage here to wrap two more poles together. So I'm going around and frapping that all together, and I got myself a tripod, and I set that tripod up. I have that long piece of cordage left over right here, and it's going to be hanging down in the middle of the tripod. I'm going to tie my pot hook to that, and then my pot will hang off the pot hook right over the fire. So I've left a tail. The other thing is, if you leave a short tail and you're like making a tripod, when you get to the end of your cordage, you'll have that tail, and you can just do like a double overhand knot and tie everything off real tight. So there it is, guys, the clove hitch, one of the very most useful knots in bushcraft. And it's something, if you're out here doing bushcraft projects, that you'll find that you end up using a lot. I would say that, and then the simple double overhand knot, which I can show you, I'll show in another video. I've shown it as part of shelter videos, but I'm just going to break down and some of the most basic knots that I use out here for shelters and projects and stuff, and do some individual videos. Again, maybe you're much more of an expert and much more knowledgeable than me on knots, but if you're not, if you're not an expert on knots, and you need to learn a new knot or relearn or master some old skills, these videos will be there for you to look at from time to time. Thanks for checking out Ochiko Bushcraft. Take care.